Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission, a brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Andy Santis.
Look at the snow falling. It's really cold outside.
Hi, welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network on this Friday evening. It's great to be here. And I'm really excited because I have a truly wonderful guest.
Oh, I like that.
She's also from the greater Philadelphia area where I'm from.
In Canada right now.
She is a photographer,
You're quite there
visual artist,
It started it on the West Coast.
and I'm so pleased to invite with you this evening, Kate Capato. Kate, thank you so much for joining me.
I want to make a shout out
to
and
thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it really is. We have so much to share because,
and your family,
sometimes we hear that within our Catholic faith that some are attracted to truth,
our church,
some are attracted
and not just to Catholics,
beauty.
There's people
some
all
are
over
attracted to goodness and
faith.
You're right in that beauty department, aren't you?
Is something that's so valuable for everyone.
Sure.
And I know that that is exactly what you and
all
your family
three, right?
doing
all three, because they
So
all come
I want to
together.
invite people again to go to
the visual art
evango.net.
that you're doing,
and
all of the wonderful work you are doing in the artistic world,
and
in our
even
faith
at the
is just
website
really
where
incredible.
I'm the director for
So
Foundation, we
I'm
have
quite
the
honored.
link there
I would
too
invite
at
people to check out your website,
which is the St. Raymond Donatus Foundation
Am I
for
correct
Freedom,
about
Family,
that?
and
Visual Grace. There's the website right there. You can check it out. And you have done so much. I know you yourself are a newlywed. You and your husband Paul have been married about a year or so. And
right there on our helpful resources
so much
page
to talk
under
about.
outside resources,
and
you'll see
I would love for people to hear your own
because we
faith
really
story,
do
because
believe
there's so
in
much
the
to
work
share.
that you, Patrick, and your family are doing.
Sure.
So let's go back to
where do
evangelization. I know right
Let's
before
see.
this show we were talking about that.
I grew up Catholic.
And
I'm one of
families
6
right
kids,
now who are kind of scratching their head and
kind
saying,
of the whole homeschool,
I just don't know how to
traditional
handle what's
family
going on right
concept
now in
in
the
that
church.
regard.
And by saying
but
that, I
ended
don't
up
just mean the
going
pandemic.
to Bishop Shanahan
Numbers are
High
dropping.
School,
People who are involved in attending mass.
Stayed within the faith the whole time, but I would say it was my high school years that I really
if you had any words of advice to them.
Owned it for myself.
I do. And
if you're familiar with the retreat called Kairos that happens in high schools,
what I'm about to say,
I went on that my junior year, and it was during that retreat that the Lord really
what I mean by
that I really encountered Him personally.
The people in our lives,
and from that time on, it just my personal journey just was deepened, and I understood who God was as a friend,
see, very often in evangelization, we try the wide
as someone to
net,
journey with in life, not just because my parents say to,
do you know me?
And
do I know you?
So in discerning what to do,
in
where the Lord was leading me in life, I ended up going down south to school for college at Atlantic University.
Who in my life
and I knew I always wanted to do something with art and to help people. I just didn't know how that would fit together. I loved creating, like I was the kid that always created
ask the Lord, how do I bring
for cards, and
that's a fundamental question.
As I went,
the moment you bring it to God and say, how can I evangelize this person to gain changes? Right? If you say to God, how do I evangelize the culture? That's a very different
college
question.
there, I studied
but the moment you say, I have a
art
friend named
and
Fred,
psychology,
and Fred
and I
lives
set
over there, and
myself
Fred does
up
this kind of thing. This is
for
what Fred's life looks
art
like. The moment I
therapy,
say to
thinking
God,
that
how do I
could be what the Lord
Fred?
was leading me
How do I help him
to.
fall in love with the Lord?
And just kind of discern with that. I did a lot of
question that
mission
brings
work too through college.
wonderful
We
answers.
traveled to
And once God
Europe,
starts
to
filling you up with that
Lebanon,
little
and I even went
knowledge
to
that we can help
India.
you with that evangel,
So I really kind of
it
was
can take you even
involved
further.
with
For
a lot
example,
of things
what
in
is their
regards to my
language of
faith, but also the
evangelization?
arts,
I
and
don't
just
know if
the whole
you've
time was
heard the
just
term
journeying
before,
to
Ann,
figure
or
out
your
where he
listeners,
was leading
but
me
basically,
in that.
which is it? Which form of speaking
And after
reaches this
graduating, I
person's
discerned
heart?
that art
Is it truth? Is
therapy
it goodness?
wasn't exactly what he was
Yes.
leading me
Some
to.
people,
And I ended
they
up
just
joining
need
a
the argument.
mission.
Reason it out with
You
me,
might be
Pastor. Tell me,
familiar with
convince me
it,
that this
called the
makes sense.
Culture
If
Project.
that's your friend, if that's
And
the friend in your life, then
they're
they speak
based
truth.
in
That's how they
Philadelphia, but they
connect to
travel all
God.
over the States.
And when they feel there's
And I was
confusion
with them
around the
for
church, when
3
they feel something
years,
isn't clear,
speaking
they
about
tend
human
to either
dignity,
walk or
sexual
even
integrity, and just helping them with the
faith.
mission.
Some can only connect with God.
And
It seems through
as
beauty.
I'm describing
It's
this to
the
you,
art. It's the walking in
it
the
was clear
forest.
that I
It's
was
being on the
in a
lake
place
in a
that,
boat, and they say,
art
I feel at
and
peace here.
mission felt like
If
two
you have a
different
friend in
worlds,
your
and I
life
kept
like
kind of
that,
jumping
start
back and forth
showing
and
them the
didn't know
beauty of the
how they would
faith.
come
Hone in on
together.
that. Don't
And
spend time on the
after
argument. They're
my
not
mission
interested.
years, I
What they want to see
came
is
across a
this
school
faith from
in
this God who
Italy
is love. God is
called
love.
the Sacred Art
If
School.
he's real, then he should be
And
beautiful, should he
there
not?
I felt like things started to
Absolutely.
zip
And
together
the
a little
people
bit better,
who followed him for
because
millennia have
I
also done beautiful things.
I knew
Why?
I
Because he
wanted to do
wants
more
to
with art.
imitate him. Show your
And I
friend that.
knew
Now,
I loved
there's one more,
mission
of course,
and doing
goodness.
sacred art,
If your
studying
friend, your
particularly
neighbor,
sacred
your
painting.
someone in your
It felt like
family
finally they were
speaks
starting to come
the
together
language
more
primarily of
fully, where I
goodness,
was able
what they're
to
looking for,
more
Ann, is
clearly
not beautiful
use
things.
art
They'll look
to
up
help
to the
people
night
with
sky and see
faith.
stars and go, oh, that's
So
nice.
where
They'll
art
read some
therapy is
Thomas
beautiful,
Aquinas and they'll say, oh, that's
it's a
interesting.
different realm of
But if
helping
you
in
show
terms
someone doing a
of I
kind
had
action for someone else,
let's
you
see, I
have
just
them.
was able to grow
And
deeper in
now they
understanding
start
how
raising the
to
question. What
evangelize
is this God
with
like?
art.
Who is it you
And I'm
follow
still
again?
learning that, but that was
A
the
quick
beginning
story.
stages
Years
of
ago,
seeing where God was
my
leading
daughter
me
Hannah, we were out in
with
the rain. We were doing some
my faith
grocery shopping. It
journey,
was my
and
turn.
art combined my
And so we turned it
vocation
into a
as an
little date
artist, if
night.
you will.
And we went out
So
in the
yeah,
evening, and
since
there was lots of
then,
people
after
everywhere, but
being
it was
there
raining. So I was
for
kind of grumpy. I'm
I was
going
there
to
for 2
admit this to
years,
your
I've come
audience, Ann.
home
I was
and
kind of grumpy. I
got
shouldn't have been,
married.
but I
I'm in the
was. I
Philly
just wanted
area
to
and
groceries
have
in the trunk.
just
And Hannah, the
dove
little girl at the
headfirst
time, she was
into
pulling on
becoming
my
an
jacket.
artist full
Dad, Dad,
time
Dad. I
and
said, yes, we're going to get in
do
the
the
car.
painting, but I
Don't worry,
still
we'll get
do
dry.
photography,
No,
and
Dad,
I'm
Dad.
also a
Finally, I
dancer,
gave
as
her
you
some.
mentioned.
I said,
There's a
what
lot
is
of
it?
art loves that the Lord
And she
has
said,
given me,
look.
and
She pointed at a man
it's constantly under the
just
umbrella
seconds
of
before given her
using
coat to
it
the
to
woman who was
speak
walking
about
in.
God's love, using it to speak
I
about
said,
God's
what is
truth.
it? She said,
As
he
I
gave her
continue to
his
learn
coat.
all
And
these
for
mysteries
her,
that the Lord
this
is
was
sharing through my
mind-blowing.
personal faith
This
journey,
was
I feel called to share that
goodness
through
in
my
action.
art, to
It
hopefully
was
help others
God
encounter Him
present
more
here.
and
You see,
to
for the person who
understand His
speaks
mysteries
goodness,
deeper and deeper
that
each
is the
time.
window to
So,
see
in a
God.
nutshell, that's
So I'm
my
saying all
journey,
of
if
this
you will.
because today, right
Wow,
now,
that
when
I
you're feeling
appreciate that
isolated,
so
you can't
much.
be
And
with all your
right on
friends,
that
your
front page
faith
of your
community, all this sort
website,
of
you
thing,
say
what you
Encounter the
still
Divine. I'm
can
just
do,
going to
what you
read
actually
it
need
because
to do,
I think
Sure.
it sums
is
up
focus in
exactly
on those
what you're
God has put in
doing.
your
You
life
say
and ask
sacred
God,
art,
what is their
painter,
language?
natural
How do
light
I speak to
photographer,
them?
and
How do
contemporary
I evangelize them? Do
choreographer. Kate
not
Capato
waste
offers
time speaking in
artistic
a way that they cannot hear.
avenues
They're not trained
to
in that
bring
language yet. If Ann, you
altering
suddenly
truth,
switched right now and say
goodness,
Cantonese
beauty
on me,
into
I
your
would not be
home
able to
and
follow the
community.
conversation
What's
in the
better than
least.
that?
But in
Honestly, I
English,
mean, in this
I get it.
world
I'm
where
listening.
we
I'm
are
learning. I know I have a
in
lot to
this
learn from you, Ann.
craziness right
It's the same thing
now,
with the
I
languages of
think that
evangelization.
beauty
You
and
can be
our
talking
faith
and
is
talking and
really the
talking, but unless
avenue
you
that
hit
we
on
should
beauty,
all
because they speak beauty,
explore
they're going to
because
miss
it
it.
helps to bring peace.
Oh,
So
yes. I have a
there's a
lot to
whole
learn
deal.
from you,
Art
actually.
and beauty can bring such
Well, I
peace
think
to
from
our
each other.
hearts.
Maybe
And you know,
from each
that's
other.
where
However
God
it
Thank you
is
for
too,
saying
isn't
that.
it?
And the
That's where
reason
the
yeah.
Lord is
I
when we
smiled
find
when
that
you said
beauty. We
goodness, because I know that for myself, that's
so
one.
Right. When we encounter and I'm learning
and I think
every day. You would think because I'm an artist and I'm doing all this art that I would know everything about it, but no.
Because
every day teaches me something new about who he is through beauty. Whether that's out in nature, my husband and I love to go hiking. My family and I, we all enjoy that.
For everyone.
Every time, like
there's some people who are
some of you might be familiar with the
more in that
Theology, the Body
and I know
Institute.
Friends who are there.
And
also
a couple years ago, I went on a course called The Way of Beauty with Bill Donahue. If you don't know about it, I highly recommend you look that up as well. It's local here,
and then there's going to be
kind of the outskirts of Philly, if you will. But
as you look around,
long story short, that course awakened even more in me of just being able to see all that
but we
he
get
shares
confused.
with,
We get
shares
tricked
with us every
sometimes
single
because
day.
we
So
look at someone's
when you're walking
career
in a trail,
or
like
their
even just looking at
training
the moths
or the way
and
they speak, and we
stunning
think that is
beauty
indicative of
in
their
that,
language.
like
And
there's
most of
so
the time,
much
that's not true. For
truth
example, I have
in
friends who
a
are
flower. There's so much truth in the
PhDers in
sunset.
philosophy. And this one
We
friend of
can
mine
learn
was out
so much
trying
about who
to
God is
evangelize his
and
fellow candidate
who we
in,
are in
for this
relation to
PhD in
him
philosophy. And they were
through
arguing about back and
beauty,
forth
through
for over a year.
authentic truth that's
And it was
spoken in
amicable,
art.
they're
There's
friends,
so
and it
much
was
we
going well.
can
But finally, one day, my friend
understand
needed
about
to
life
stop
in that,
and
which
say
is
hello
it's
to our
really
Lord in the
powerful, and
Eucharist. He missed his
we
time
don't
with our
always
Lord that day, so he
recognize
said,
it.
just
To
hold
be
on a second,
subconscious.
pause the conversation, I'll be back
But
in a minute. He ran in
it
to
does
say
something
thank
to
you
our
to the Lord in the
hearts.
Eucharist. And when he turned around to leave,
Yes, thank you so much.
his friend was standing there
It's
just
so
in
true.
shock.
It really does do
So we
something
quickly
to our
pulled him
hearts.
out of adoration. He said, I'm so
Because
sorry,
God
I
speaks
didn't think
to
you're
us
ready
that
for
way.
that
He
yet. Let me
speaks to
explain.
us in the
And his
beauty
friend
that
said to
He
him,
has
hold on a
created.
second.
And I
We've been
just commend
arguing
you
for
for
what,
doing
about a
such
year
great
now?
work.
My friend said,
Now I
yeah,
know
absolutely,
that
we
you
have. He said,
also just
and
got
you never
married a
showed me
year
that.
ago. We
He said,
have
well, I
some
was going to
beautiful
get, he said,
photos that I'd love
stop. This
for us to
conversation
take a look at
ends. I'm now
because
Catholic.
you had sent them to me.
Is that right?
And there you go. Well, there's one of you right there on the screen. Now, what is that one? I see that's a beautiful artwork that you created of Jesus sitting on a throne.
Yes, that was a recent work that actually I felt called to create for a long time. And the way the Lord painted out, it ended up being something that I created over the pandemic. I should say over the main lockdown, if you will. It started in March, right when everyone was told to stay inside and not go anywhere. And it was really powerful because, as you hopefully are able to see, it's of Christ the King. And so he's wearing a crown. And what we know about the pandemic, right? The virus is the coronavirus, which, if you know what corona means, it means crown. So God's timing is really providential in that he called me to kind of create this work with him, who is the king wearing the crown, right? So yeah, it was just a reflection of his kindness, his invitation to mercy, and his victory over all that is troubling, over sin, everything that kind of weighs us down. It's just a prayer of that. So that's one of my recent paintings that I finished, and it's still I haven't like put it out there completely yet, but that's one image of me next to it. It's fairly large, as you can see.
You are so talented. I know I'm going to say that more than a few times during the show, but really and truly, I know right before the show started, you were telling me that
what do you mean you're now Catholic? He said,
you also can
beautiful.
Create a piece of art, whether it be
you see, when we
that's a good story, Patrick.
drawing or something
it's
else.
True. It's real. I hear
or
this stuff
someone
all
who
the time.
requests it.
When
you told me that you
into
even
their
had a bride
language,
and
they
groom
cannot
that
help but listen.
requested
If I go to a
that you do
foreign
something
country and they're
for
speaking
each of them.
Japanese all around me, they're speaking Russian all around me.
I know that
the
right before that we
anyone
saw a
speaks English,
picture. I think our producer put a picture of you yourself. Is that you at your wedding?
I didn't see the photo. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like it's someone in front of a church. I think it's you in front of you and your husband at your wedding. That's what's up on the screen right now.
Oh, no. So that's if it's a big church, because I'm not seeing what you're seeing. But,
it's a big church.
No, that's just, I didn't send any. I could have sent some of my husband and I should have did that. I can sneak it through here in email. But no, that's some of my personal wedding photography. So that is a couple that I photographed for their wedding, as I do a lot of wedding photography. And it's really cool because the Lord brings a lot of strong Catholic couples to me for wedding photography. So I'm able to support the sacrament of marriage, which is really awesome. So yeah, that's a couple that I photographed. It's not my husband and I, though.
Okay. I couldn't tell because it was kind of far away.
Sure,
Yeah, that was beautiful. So I want to make a shout out then for people who are watching, especially those who are from Philadelphia, South Jersey, maybe Delaware area, that, you're looking for a wedding photographer or a photographer for some other special event, then Kate Capato might be the one you want to get in touch with.
Awesome.
Give us again
such good advice, and I know I've heard this from other
what would be the place that,
Catholic sources, such as I think Bishop
Barron
Barron might have brought that up too.
Should they go right to your website?
And it's good.
Yeah, if you go to my website,
we need to keep talking about it. I mean, obviously, I think we need to keep talking about it because
it'll ask you a slew of questions of what you're interested in. So whether it's painting, dancing, speaking,
and when you said
you can also
your
answer the
friend
questions in
Fred
regards
or
to
whoever
wedding
it is,
photography.
instead of looking
that
at
sends
as,
me
wow,
kind of
the culture really needs
all the
to
information
change.
that
Think
I would
about
need to then
somebody that
contact
you know
you, and we would
personally,
chat about it
because
further
that's where
and
it
see what
really
we can
happens.
make
We can
work.
only
So
make
yeah,
a
just
difference
through my website, go to
one
that
person at a
contact
time, if I'm right.
page.
Well, that is exactly
it's great
right.
because you
And
know
God
when
is a
you're
great
having
big fan of
something like a
throwing
wedding
stones, making
in the
that one stone
family
ripple
or
across.
some other special event.
So
you
let's get
want
started.
somebody
Let's
who really
create
cares,
together.
and you understand the importance of the sacramental life.
He
And
wants
not all the
you and me, and
photographers
he wants all
do,
of us
but
to
I'm
pick
sure
up our
that
little
with
pebble, throw
someone
it
like
into the lake,
yourself,
and together
as that wedding is
cause
happening and they're up on the
ripples.
altar,
If we all do
you're
it,
taking those
just imagine
special
that wave that comes
photos
from it.
of the
But very
actual
often
sacrament
we
as it takes
think
place.
we're ready for, I want to
Yeah,
throw something
it's really powerful.
gargantuan
And I
into
mean,
that. Like, we don't need to do that.
as someone who just
Who
got
has
married,
God
as you
sent
mentioned a
first?
year ago,
Look in
I
the
recognized
eyes,
even in
talk in the
ourselves
language they
that we wanted
understand,
someone who
bring
understood the
Christ in.
mass. So they knew, like, oh,
That's
this
right.
is a
That's
prime
beautiful.
time. Like, the
I'm
couple's
looking at
going to
your
really
website
want
right now, actually right
the
in front
moment
of
with
me.
the
It's a good
Eucharist,
reference.
first communion
And
as
you
a
have a
husband
book
and
on,
wife. Like,
on
all
your
these
site.
special
It's
moments
called
that are
War Against the
so
Woman.
sacramentally
And a quote
intertwined.
underneath, I'll just read
And
what that quote says. Mary,
that,
Mother
when a
of the
photographer
Incarnate Word,
understands
is
what's happening,
placed
they
at the
can
very
get those
center
moments more
of that
specifically.
enmity,
So it's
that struggle
neat
which
to work with
accompanies the
couples
history
who
of
really want
humanity
that.
on earth
Most of them say
and
to
the
me, the
history of
most important part
salvation
for us
itself.
is the
In this
mass, the
history,
wedding mass, which
Mary
is really cool.
remains
And
the
I
sign
agree
of
with
sure
them, and
hope.
I love that the
So
Lord
you could talk about
brings
that
them
book.
to me, because
Well,
that's
that book came to
that's
me because
what we
I
want
love
to
Mary,
share about
obviously,
marriage,
and
the understanding of it's
I feel
three
like,
becoming
I'm
one.
sure
It's
it's
not
true, but I
just
feel like I've read everything
man
I
and
can get my
woman,
hands
but
on
it's
to do
also
with our Blessed
God in
Mother.
that equation. So
But I've always
portraying
struggled
that
with
as best
something.
as we
For
can,
me,
even through
I'll
photos,
speak for my own spiritual
is
life.
a
It's
way
always
to
been a
kind of
battle. It's always
share
been a
that
struggle. I
sacrament
see the
more.
worst of myself.
Yeah,
I
that's
know my
incredible.
faults. I know
Now,
my failings,
I
my
just want to
vices.
back up a little
And I
bit.
feel like from
I'm
one day to the
assuming that
next, I
when
have
you
to
have
battle the
someone
worst of
who's a
Patrick
client
so
that's
that the new
going to be
man
getting
may
married,
emerge. That's just my own
that they would be
personal story,
from
I
the
suppose.
Philadelphia area
So I
or
always
South
wondered, how does
Jersey
Mary
or
fit in
Delaware.
there?
Do you ever
there's
deal with
such a
people that
wonderful
are outside of those
personality, a real
areas, or is
character,
it
a
pretty
real
much do you
person
stay
who's
within that
kind of
tri-state
entered
area?
into this world to
I'll go where
do
go anywhere.
really amazing things.
I shot a wedding in
where
Italy.
does her
I shot a wedding
place in the plan of
in
mind connect?
Colorado this past
And a couple of years
January, which
ago,
was stunning.
through
There's
some of my
this
readings through
beautiful
the actual
church
promptings
in
of St. Pope John Paul
Estes
II,
Park, if you're
I
familiar.
realized,
Beautiful
wait a minute,
chapel.
I've missed something entirely.
So
What I've
all
missed
of
is
those, I
that
guess you could
as
call,
much as I
were
feel that
either
I'm
they were
in
from
the
that
battle,
place, or they were
Mary has been in the
destination weddings,
battle long
even where they would
before
find a
me,
church and
but
still get married in
for
these
me.
beautiful
See that?
locations.
And
So
that was key.
I am open to
And
travel.
another
So
image
if
came to
anyone
mind
is a
that
different
really pulled
area
it together
or
for me.
wants
See,
to
and when I was a
travel
little
for their
guy,
once
I
obviously
think I must
travel
have
is
been, I
lifted
don't
for
know,
the
6 or
pandemic
so, somewhere
purposes,
around
but
there. My mother took us
most
to this
of
little
the
party. It
people
was
I photographed
a pool
are in
party.
this area,
And I
but
was so excited because we never got
traveling
to
is
go to
not
pool
out of the
parties.
question.
And they were bringing out
Yeah,
cookies
that's
and
good to
cake and all that
hear.
sort
I
of
will
thing.
make a shout
And
out
right before
because,
they
and
pulled
I
out the
think you know this,
cookies,
Kate.
my
I
mother
may have
asked
mentioned
another
it,
adult
but
to
I'm the
watch us so
director
she could
for
quickly head inside and
a
use the washroom.
foundation. It's called the St.
Well,
Raymond Onoda
she
Foundation.
left, the
And
cookies
stay
were
tuned
called,
because
all the
during the
kids got out
commercial
of the
break,
pool, and I remember
you'll
standing
see
there
the
just happily
commercial
eating this
for
cookie.
the
My
foundation where I'm the
mother
director.
suddenly
And
emerged,
we were
kind of out of
founded by a
nowhere, like
religious
Batman.
order.
Batman just
And
kind
we
of shows
have
up.
a few
And she
churches in the
dove into
United
the shallow
States
end of the
that
pool.
our
And
priests
we all thought
are,
that was an amazing dive, first of
working
all,
there.
that
And,
you're able to
who
do
knows,
that.
maybe some of our
Secondly, she was fully
Mercedarian
clothed.
friars
What
might
on
want
earth
to
is going on?
also
Well,
recommend
she
you
came
as
up
a
out of the deep
wonderful
end
wedding
with my little
photographer
brother.
who
Sure.
is
No one had
really in
seen
tune
her
with
little
the
son drifting towards the
sacramental
deep
life,
end.
and it's just so
No one had
important.
seen him gone under.
So make a big shout out
But my
there.
mother did.
Now,
Before anyone
also,
was
you
aware of
mentioned
the battle,
something like
my
First
mother was
Communions.
pulling
Have
her
you
up
also
from the
done
deep end.
photos
And I
for
got it
those
finally,
other
man.
sacraments?
This is what Mary does for each of us.
Yeah, I have. I
You
wouldn't
have
say
friends
that
right now. I
I
have friends
push
right
that
now
as
who
much. I'm
don't know
more
the first
into
thing
the
about
wedding
Mary, don't think they need
photography.
her. She's
Just in
already
terms terms of weddings get booked pretty quickly, or from my speaking schedule, so I don't always have time for photographing all the other things with also my painting schedule. So sometimes I'm able to fit that in the schedule, but it's not, I don't do that as much, even though I'm all for all the sacraments, but in terms of photographing, yeah.
Head first, you can breathe again.
It's good to know. So you have an incredible website, and one of the things that it says on your website is, do you have a desire, you say, to build up the domestic church by bringing
that's why that book was written.
beauty into your home?
And it's very
maybe
personal.
You have noticed the need
she's a mother who's in
for
the battle
sacred art
me,
within your church or community and want to help.
I want to get that book. I don't have it yet, I'll admit, because I just saw it there on your website, but I'd like to get that book. It looks amazing. And
wow,
anything to help in that relationship also with our Blessed Mother.
About that.
Because here, we're on Fiat Ministry Network here. And the tagline is where we say yes to Jesus Christ.
A calling, if you will, for every home.
I mean, that's what Mary's all about, and that's what we're all about.
A domestic church.
Thank you for sharing that, and I would encourage people to get your book.
Just as much as going to church, we are called to
and it's kind of right on that
truth
homepage.
And goodness and
then underneath you have your
faith
talks.
And a lot of times, beauty particularly can be seen as an extra, as an ornament, or just a decoration.
And I know it's like a little subscription.
Maybe we don't know,
sounds
or
like a great thing, and I'd love for people to
learn about it. For beauty in our
good.
lives,
Those
the great need for beauty in our hearts.
Times. I've always been terrible at it. And
I love to quote Dietrich von Hildebrand. He's a well-known philosopher and just a stunning Catholic. His wife is still living. He has passed away, but he's written many beautiful things on our faith, but particularly writes about aesthetics, and he speaks about how beauty brings us before the face
they
of
cannot
God.
Get out to learn about their faith,
and that's a powerful
basically
concept. If we really sit and chew on that for a moment,
listeners,
like
if you're
beauty
interested in hearing some
brings us
content
before the
from me,
face
it's
of
my
God.
voice on there.
So if we
to do with different faith matters,
if we know that,
so there will be interviews, there will be.
Why would we not want to surround ourselves?
All sorts of things I do. I don't even know.
Why would we not want to make our sacred spaces
so you get to hear
truly beautiful, not just efficient?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Why would we not want to make our homes?
So please do. I invite people to go to evango.net. I know that you're on all the social media platforms
whether that is,
where they can learn more.
Just simplistic.
And how about me and my house? I know that's a big,
not all our homes have to look like a cathedral,
for you
but
and your family
bringing
right now.
Sacred art into our home,
well, it is really
even
big. It's close to our heart because we
having a beautiful garden, or just really thinking about intentionally.
So we get a lot of questions.
Bringing
we already have a lot
beautiful
of questions
spaces that enable us to have rest. To pray, to encounter the Lord. All of that is cultivating our characters, cultivating the virtue in our hearts. It's helping us grow to be the man and woman we're called to be. So,
it's one thing
it's really what I'm noting on my website. It's just that call to action of what are we going to do about it now? Like, beauty is something you and I both need.
Huge piece.
We all need it. So we need to invest in that. It's not just going to show up, at our door all the time. Like,
I've said in
if we
different
see a need for that in our church, like as a lay community, it's important to say to our pastor, how can we bring that in more? Maybe it could be commissioning it, gathering a bunch of families to commission it together, because it is an investment, and I understand there's a financial need there. But I think a lot of times we may recognize a need, but we don't necessarily take action as to how to make a change, right? So why not? Let's do that. Let's find ways to help evangelize not only our own hearts, but the community.
How should I see God's plan for my parenting?
Bringing us before God.
It's a fundamental question I think we've forgotten to ask. And I want to raise that question against the floor for everyone. How is God asking you to
and I will admit, before I met you, I didn't really understand that. I didn't know that was something that
So we've actually put together a program. It's in a couple days. Actually, it'll become a subscription-based to help all of us who are at home and if they want direct access to it.
Church community,
and it's going to cover everything from how to stop yelling to
and you have that right on your website at visualgrace.org. It says
kids' boredom issues,
what does it mean to commission art? And you say
all the stuff that parents struggle with,
means to
but more than that, we're going to address
artwork.
In this case, a painting. What is my family culture?
Created with symbols and themes that are uniquely
How
done
is my
for
family
you
going to set out on mission
or your community?
Together?
What's that been like for you to actually
with
do
my
that?
family,
Because
and
I know
how
you've done that in some
evangelize my
cases
kids?
for
So all of that is in our program, Me and My House, parenting. And on that website, meandmyhouse.net.
Yeah, so I've done it
go visit there. You'll see we also have an active blog started.
Homes for some churches,
a bunch of parents who've cut their teeth and parents
all different realms of bringing beauty to people. And it's a beautiful process of prayer, really creating a painting, sacred painting,
the program
kind of like,
actually got,
and I say this humbly because I'm not equated to
this is the first
but it's kind of like painting a homily. In the regards of,
come to tell me otherwise,
if someone were to come to me and say, you know, our family has a special devotion to St. Francis or whoever it might be, and we would love to have a painting of him, and this is why.
What
and
a blessing! What a blessing!
They tell me all the reason why.
We have a lot more to talk about me and my house, so I don't want to stop that conversation, but we do have to take a short break. So please, everyone, stay with us and learn more about
to help me create that composition, to help me understand what he is here on Journeys through it. And all of it is done in prayer and really letting the Lord lead. So it truly becomes the Holy Spirit speaking through you. And that can be done again for a church community. So maybe as a church whole, like maybe the church itself is named after
I'm on the other website now.
That can be an intentional
as we come into that second half,
vision with the work. And
we'll
different
continue to talk about me and my house. Is there anything else that you
know,
think would be a good
things
idea
like a flower
to
can
focus
mean so
on?
much. I have a work where a flower symbolizes mercy, and it's inviting us into that mercy. And with the sacred works, there's so many ways that we can.
And I'm going to recap some of it too. So
speak of the gospel, speak of the mysteries, just through symbology and the figures, the sacred figures and saints and so forth.
Hi, welcome back.
But it's just a journey
here on
with
Fiat
someone
Ministry
to
Network.
create
Thank you so much, everyone,
the Holy
for joining
Spirit
us
has put on their heart or my heart. And
as I said, we have an amazing guest here. We have Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I will admit,
also the founder
during
of
shows, sometimes I have
we were
my
talking
phone
a lot
in
about
front
that
of me
during the first
because
half.
I'm looking at the website of the person I'm interviewing.
His
so of course I am
learn
scrolling
more,
a
connect
little
with
bit,
him on
looking
social
at the
media.
portfolio.
And he's
it's
the
right
father
on
of
your
9,
website.
brand new baby
goodness.
Samuel.
I mean, come on.
And I
want everybody to take a look at this. I mean, she is just incredible. At visualgrace.org, if you go to that one section there, and I believe it is under the sacred art, which is just such a nice part of your website. Nice is really an understatement. I shouldn't use that word, but I mean, it's just really incredible. And even for somebody like myself, now, not everybody is sort of a visually oriented person. Some people are more auditory. You know what I'm saying, Kate?
Sure.
I happen to be one of those people that my world goes in through the ears, you know, and so, but even for somebody like me, who's more auditory, I'm looking at these beautiful pieces of art, and it's just drawing me
of him on social media is absolutely beautiful. So congratulations to you and your family on the birth of Samuel. So just backtracking to what we talked about before the commercial break, we were talking about the other part of your website, which leads to the other website called meandmyhouse.net.
Tell us about that.
That's if there's a special saint myhouse.net.
That
so
please do
go on there now if you have your phone there.
Speaking to you, tell us how that can,
and
what you can do
it's
there
a beautiful
for
website
or
with
individual.
opportunities there to
a
grow
family
in parenting.
Can come to me
Tell
and
us more.
maybe there's a special devotion that the whole family kind of relates to and shares. Maybe it's a special title of Our Lady, like Guadalupe could be a special devotion that you all may have. Or maybe it's a couple connections. So like one family, it was actually a son who commissioned it as a gift to his parents. He, as a whole, they had a special devotion to JP2.
That's our starting point.
And Our Lady. And they recently had grandparents that passed away, so they wanted kind of to incorporate special aspects to them in a symbolic way. So I have, you can see it on my website, there's an image of JP2 and Our Lady speaking of his devotion to her, like it's titled Totus Tuus, and there's some hidden symbols in there, if you will, with different crests that speak of their family, which they're well aware of, and it's just telling the story of spiritual story, if you will,
to the next.
Of how
if
the
you're
saints
on that website
have
right now, you'll see there's actually
walked
a link
with
there
them,
for the
journeyed with
5-day
them.
Catholic Parenting
And
Challenge. It's a video
that's just one
resource. It's absolutely
example.
free.
And there's been
You can
others,
go
like
through it,
I've done
and
this
I'm
with
there, and I'll be
Francis
challenging you.
for
Try
a
this today,
family,
and then tell me
they
what
have
happens.
a
Now
special
try
love
to
for
do this.
dogs,
Tell
so
me
there's
what
a
happens.
dog within that
And
image,
we
and
receive such good feedback
it
from that.
speaks of certain
Little
sufferings,
things that
but
you
the
can do
triumphs
to
over
up
that.
the
There's
faith
all
game
like
in your
subtle
house in ways
ways,
that your
and
kids don't see
really
as,
just
pushy or anything
if
else.
someone were
ways that you can
interested
do
in
it,
creating
that our
something like
family's
that,
done it, other families.
we would
We're
come
speaking from
chat about it
experience here.
and
Try
pray with
this,
it.
and you'll
It's a
be
journey.
happy
It's
that
not
you
something
did.
that happens
So
overnight.
there's
This
the
is a couple
challenge.
months
We have
process.
a show
Sometimes
coming
longer
out in
if
the
you're not
future. We
sure
don't have
yet.
a
Like
timeline
really just being
yet,
like, these are the
but it's
things
going to
that stick
be
out to
basically
me.
kind of like a documentary.
This is what I
reality
know
show
our family is
Catholic
devoted
parenting.
to, and it
Here's
would be
the
nice
Sullivan
to have.
family.
But let's pray with
We're
that.
joyful.
Let's
We love
articulate
being
that,
parents.
and then
We
I
love
would
our
create
faith. Welcome
sketches,
to our
and
life. So that's
we
down
would
the
take a
pipeline
while
as well.
to come to the
There's so
exact
much
image
coming
that
forward.
feels
But
right,
our
if
goal
you
is
will.
this. We want to take the
And
mother,
before
the
doing the
father,
actual
the
cleaning,
godparent,
if that makes
even,
sense,
the
so that we're
grandfather,
really
grandmother,
sure,
take
like,
the
okay,
right hand and say,
this is
let's
what the
do
Holy
this
Spirit is
together.
leading us to
We've
for
been there.
your
We have 9
family,
kids.
for
We know
your
what it's like. We
home,
know what those struggles are. We don't
as
need to
a
be ashamed
domestic
of it. We
church,
don't
right?
need to be worried about it.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
walk you through
really
what we did,
exciting.
and we'll
And
show
I
you what
just
we think
invite
works,
people
some things
to
that could have
think
worked if
about
we
it.
tweaked a
You
little
know,
bit,
this is
and
a
so on.
wonderful
So
gift
that's the bulk of
for
it, but
your
there's so much
spouse.
in
This
there.
is a wonderful gift
That is
for
beautiful
your
because,
family, for your
this is
church.
what we need
So
as a
please do
culture.
reach out to Kate
And I know
Capato
that we
at
were saying during the first half that it's not
visualgrace.org.
so much thinking
Now,
about it
Kate,
sort
we
of
are going to take a
globally or
commercial
nationally,
break.
but more
Okay.
person
And
to
so I
person.
invite
So the
people to come
approach
back
you're using is
in
very
just a little
personal,
while
but
here
it's
on
making
Journeys
an
in Faith
effect
here on this
on the
Friday
whole
evening on
communities
Fiat
and the
Ministry
countries
Network.
and the nations. So
Hi, my name is Ann DeSantis, and I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. You can learn about us on our website at nonatus.org. I'm here to tell you today about 2 great podcasts that I hope that you will tune in. The first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock, we have a podcast specifically for Catholics affected by divorce. From 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, go to Philly Nonatus on YouTube to subscribe. In addition, we also have a podcast the last Thursday of every month. That's also at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for 1 hour. And that one is for families in crisis. We have some really great guests coming up soon, so hope to see you then. Please also consider the fact that you can make spiritual direction appointments with us, with our spiritual moderator. All you need to do is go to our website on the contact form and just reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you and look forward to setting up an appointment. So we'd love to connect with you. Please share this video and let people know that we're there for families affected by divorce and also families in crisis. Thank you.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present the Discover Your Mission series.
When I was young, in the 1950s, I attended Catholic grammar school and I memorized the Baltimore Catechism. In fact, I think I got an A on all of my tests. I faithfully attended Mass each week, not because I wanted to, but because I was afraid if I didn't, I would suffer eternal damnation. I followed all the rules. I followed my Catholic faith faithfully. But it wasn't until I became a wife and a mother and I began to try and pass my faith on to my children that I realized that everything I knew about Jesus was memorized doctrine.
I can't even share with you how I was so rooted in my faith. And I was attending Mass, but I was not present. I was a good man, I was a good father, I was instilling the sacraments into my family. I was definitely not intentional. I was stuck rooted in my faith.
But what kind of strength did he have? Jackie did not just have a strength of body or baseball skill. He had a strength inside of his spirit, a courageous meekness that empowered him to play the game.
Network, and I tell him what is going on with me, and he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I think this is like some sort of miracle, dude. And he's like, oh, you know, of course, but I'll believe it when I see it. Honey, you've been trying to quit, and you've been saying this and saying that. And I'm, you know, his big line to me is, you shouldn't say things because I never follow through on them. And so this was week after week, month after month. He is looking at me like, this is a miracle. There is no way that you, on your own, could have done this.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 16 through 21, St. Paul compares the sacrifice of the Christians to the sacrifice of Israel and then to the sacrifice of the pagans. Paul calls the chalice the blood of Christ, and the bread as participation in the body of Christ, and then warns his listeners that you cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons at the same time. So in other words, you need to decide, what are you going to participate in? Are you going to participate in the historic Christian idea of the altar of sacrifice, which is in the Eucharist, or not?
I think that's where to start is how you're approaching this whole idea of
Network.
Godly
it's great
parenting
to be here on this Friday
in
evening.
a positive
Thank
light.
you so much for
joining
it's
not
us.
about
I do
have
pointing
that
an
finger and
incredible
saying, well,
guest.
you should have
If
done
you've been
this or
watching
that.
since 8:30 Eastern
It's
here.
that positive approach to
Kate
God's
Capato.
love, right? Isn't that where it
She is
begins?
a visual artist,
love of Jesus Christ.
photographer, a dancer.
The whole Don Vitae
I mean,
thing.
she
Do
does
you
so
really
much.
believe that children are gifts,
Kate, you're really
right?
incredible.
If we do,
and
then
I
when
have
I meet
enjoyed the
parents,
first half of the
parents
show
in a
where
messy
you
state,
talked a lot about how
maybe
you can
things are not
actually
going well for them.
commission art so that people can have you do a beautiful painting, maybe for their parish or for their home, or give it as a gift for a wedding or something else. It's just an incredible thing. So I invite people to please do connect with you because you just have so much to offer. I thought we could talk about your photography, and I know we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but tell us more. What is that aspect of your ministry like, or of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, that one is a little more simple, if you will. I connect with the couples who are interested in needing wedding photos. As I mentioned in the first half, I'm gifted with working with a lot of couples who are strong in their faith and seeking somebody who wants someone who understands the Mass and the sacrament really well. So yeah, that's just a process of figuring out the schedules and all the logistics, but understanding what's important to that couple, which again, because a lot of them are strong in their faith, they'll say to me, the Mass is the most important part, which is awesome because I would agree with them. It takes 3 of us to get married, as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's just being with them on their special day and capturing all those moments as they are celebrating their new life together. And then I edit their creation and share all those memories with them, and they'll have them forever where they can share them with their grandkids and so on. So yeah, that's a little bit more simple. People are familiar with the photography realm. But yeah, it's beautiful to work with those that desire to uplift the sacrament. It's not just about the day, it's about what's beginning together. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's so important because people can get caught up in just like the bride's dress and the colors that she chooses for the bridesmaids and all of that kind of stuff. But when you're really focused on what is this day all about? I mean, and we as Catholics, we know that this is a sacrament, right? This is something that it means something to our faith. It's a covenant. So with you understanding that, I think it really makes a bigger difference and encourage people to consider using you as a photographer for weddings. And again, I said you are from Philadelphia, near where I'm from, and people who live in that whole tri-state area, you can definitely work with them, but you mentioned that you can even do that outside of our area. So it's good to know. It really is good to know that you can make the trek out if necessary. You know,
I love traveling,
find somebody.
Yeah.
Like
that's not a trouble for me. I like going and exploring different places. So that's something I'm open to for sure.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Because, you know, what I was trying to say is that when you find someone like yourself, it's very hard to find a photographer who would appreciate that. I think. So finding somebody like you
it depends on it depends on their schedule, their way of life, and what they're hoping to do. But I do personally love to travel. My husband does too. So that usually isn't an obstacle on our end.
Yeah, that's so great. Now you're a dancer too. And I know we didn't talk about that yet. So please do tell us more about what you do with dance.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, all of the work of art, all the art genres, if you will, that I create in all follow under this umbrella of using it to speak truth. So even dance, a lot of times if I go and speak at a church or a different event, dance can be incorporated in that. I'll bring my visual art, so my painting, even my husband will sometimes join in with his music. He's a musician. So we'll have all these different ways that you can encounter beauty through all the different senses. So dance will be one of them, and it's using that movement to speak truth. And as I mentioned earlier, I've studied theology of the body, so I've continued to grow in my understanding of what that is, and I'm still striving to grow deeper and deeper in that. But it comes together not only in my painting as I paint figures, but especially in my dancing, to understand that the body is speaking to us, and it's speaking to us about our identity and our call as man and woman. And to articulate that simply through dance, sometimes more profoundly, in ways that really just call our hearts out to ask those deep questions of who am I and who am I called to be. So we can do that through dance, and it's particularly needed today. I think all the arts are, but dance has a special power, I think, of asking us to view the body well, if it's done in a way that the intent is pure. Obviously, we know there's dance that can be done in the wrong way, if you will. That's intention is not pure, but done in a pure manner, like the body is very good. And to express truth through it can really help our hearts draw deeper into understanding of who we are and who we're called to be. So I particularly do contemporary movement, which is kind of, for those that are familiar, I have a ballet training with some modern, and it's kind of a mix of the two, if you will, for those that aren't familiar. Some people will think when I say contemporary that I mean like hip hop, which is a really cool genre, but that's not my forte. It's more of the contemporary style, if you're familiar with that title.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to hear you talk about that, because I do think that we are mind, body, and spirit, right? So, I mean, when we're incorporating something like dance, I think that also helps us to experience who God made us to be, right? I mean, as you said, it's got to be proper, right? I mean, we're Catholic, and our faith means something to us, the way that we live our lives, right? And then what about the aspect of just health? Because don't you think that it kind of also incorporates in with taking care of ourselves? I mean, obviously, when you think about dance too, I mean, it helps our bodies to stay, physically active too.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm not one that loves normal exercise, so dance is totally that realm for me of how I get my exercise. And I mean, it's just because I love creating, so it's neat that I'm able to get my exercise again through movement, but I'm because I'm also creating in it. It's not just going to the gym and running on the treadmill, which personally I have a hard time doing, but dancing for an hour is no problem. So
yeah,
it's just all about the mindset, I think.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Now, I will admit, I said during the first half that I sort of use my little cheat sheet during the shows, as I have the phone in front of me, and looking at different things on your website. It helps me to stay on track. But one of the things I noticed is that under events that you're going to be talking at an event called Modern Saints with Smart Catholics. And I do have to mention that I'm also going to be one of those speakers for that event. So I'd love to hear what you're going to be speaking out about at Modern Saints for the Smart Catholics online conference.
Sure. This is a little different topic than I normally do, because most of the time right now I'll speak on beauty and theology, body, and the combo of that. This one I'll be speaking about Saint Maria Goretti, which many of you are probably familiar with her, and her story where she, as a young girl, essentially she was on the verge of being raped and was able to push the man away. And the beauty of that story is tenfold, if you will. She forgave him, and he ended up murdering her in that, and on her deathbed she forgave him. And the man who committed that crime, if you will, that act of sin, ended up having a beautiful conversion because of Maria Goretti's mercy towards him and forgiveness. And I'm sure she had prayed for him as she had entered into heaven. So during, from heaven, prayed for that conversion. But his witness is really powerful. So I'll be chatting a little bit about that, but also the realm of trafficking, which is pretty big sadly in our culture today. So it's like a combo of understanding the dangers and the sadness of that epidemic right now going on, but then the call to purity, to chastity, and to forgiveness. So all of that kind of intertwined, and I hope to incorporate beauty as well, what beauty is in that and how to understand that. So those are quick talks, as you know. It's a virtual event, so anyone can watch. And I believe they give you access for the whole weekend, right, Anne? So
yes.
The time, it's pretty convenient. So yeah,
it really is. It's an online conference. All you need to do is go to www.smartcatholics.com, and you want to look for the Modern Saints little icon there. And it's October 22nd and 23rd. So as Kate said, she'll be talking about Saint Maria Goretti, and I myself will be giving a talk about Saint Catherine Drexel. It's just a short talk.
Yeah.
And that I'm not an expert on Saint Catherine Drexel, but I am a Philadelphian like you are, and I looked at the list of saints and I thought, she'd be a great one to talk about, because she really did so much. And I think especially right now during this time of such like racial tension, one of the things that she really wanted to do was make the outreach to African Americans, right? I mean, that was part of what her mission was as a nun. And so please join me for the Modern Saints event online, and you can learn about these wonderful saints. So we won't be the only speakers. There's going to be a lot of people talking about the different saints, including Al Smith, who is also a good friend of Fiat Ministry Network, and he knows so much about the saints. And I know that he will be giving a wonderful talk, and other friends of ours here at Fiat Ministry Network. So please do join on that event. So backing up a little bit, you were talking about theology of the body. And I know that that's always a topic that we like to talk about. So how did that become something that really interested you and you wanted to incorporate it in what you're doing?
Great question. I encountered theology of the body first in college, and it was a continuation of my faith journey. And in that encounter, I felt like the questions I had about Catholicism were answered. I felt like in the theology of the body, I was able to understand the why behind a lot of the things that the Catholic Church teaches. So it was a deeply profound discovery, if you will, at that age. And I just couldn't get enough of it. Not only, it answers all these big questions, like why do priests have to be men? Why why do we have marriage as man and woman? All these things that are hard to talk about, that sometimes as humans we get confused in thinking that the church is trying to be oppressive or old-fashioned. Truly, the church is not. And there's a beautiful foundation, a beautiful reason for all of those decisions that is rooted in truth, rooted in beauty, rooted in God's word and understanding of and I, as I dove deeper and deeper into theology body, I discovered how all of creation is speaking about this. Now, JP2 is the one who wrote Theology of the Body, and really he was just reiterating what has been spoken to us for all of the whole world, since the beginning of time, if you will. And he put it in a way that we could and need to hear right now. But it's not necessarily new. It's just brought to our attention again, if you will. And really the essence of it, for those that aren't familiar, there's so much more. I'm just going to give you a quick summary, but it's understanding of our identity as man and woman, and particularly the two together, and how the communion of man and woman speak of something beyond us. They speak of our call to communion with God. So we, as a church, are the bride, and Christ is the bridegroom. So we are female as a church as a whole, and he is male. And that act of coming together, that communion, like God desires us to be one with him. And we desire that as well, if we are truly honest with ourselves. That is the deepest longing of our hearts. And all of creation is speaking about that call to communion with God. Man and woman in marriage, the act of sexual communion, that is speaking about that call to communion. And this is why, again, a lot of the decisions that the church makes is based on that knowledge of that communion that the Lord is calling us to. And there's so much more, like what I'm saying may not help you fully understand it just now if you're not familiar with it. I encourage you to go to get the book, to check out Theology of the Body Institute. You can have a whole week session on it. There's really so much to continually discover. But as I mentioned, even creation is speaking about it. You notice, like, when you go to the sea and you see the sea coming up to the shore and hitting rocks, right? There's a moment where that kind of collides. We're drawn to that. There's something in us that sees the connection of those two things, that our heart is drawn to it. It comes out of itself, because there's a masculine quality and a feminine quality. So the sea has a lot of feminine qualities to it. The rocks have a lot of masculine qualities to it. But there's something so special about the two coming together. So it's just, there's a lot of that in all of creation. The harmony, the communion, the supporting of the other. One is not better than the other, right? Man is not better than woman. Vice versa. Women are not better than men. We need each other, and particularly together we speak of the Lord. And in art, when done correctly, it also speaks of this mystery. Complementary colors, the composition, in music, even the way the notes come together, all of it is speaking of the combo and the harmony of masculine and feminine. And that's beautiful. It's not a bad thing. It's telling us of that mystery, that we are called to eternal communion with God. And that's what our heart longs for. And that's why beauty pierces our hearts, because there's something that we ache for in it. And just to specify, like, that doesn't mean if we're not married, we're not living that out. We can live this call of communion at any stage, in any vocation, as priest, as lay people, as a young teenager, right? It's the act of giving ourselves to another. So that can be done in service. That can be done in, teaching, in different ways of sharing ourselves with others, right? And in that, working together, there becomes harmony, a communion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I thank you for sharing. I also think it's a great message for young people. I mean, I'm the mother of 2 daughters in their 20s, and I'm so grateful for them. And I know sometimes they get to watch my show, but it's a great message for young people, you know, whether they're my daughter's age or younger, to recognize that there's so much more to life than what the society presents, don't you think? I mean, because you don't hear these messages of what you just said about who we were made to be, and about beauty, and about you know, how God speaks to us through the beauty. You don't hear that anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear that when you listen to a secular podcast, or when you watch TV or whatever, or hang out with your friends. You just don't hear it. So, I mean, it's good to know that we can find these ideas through something like Theology of the Body. And I think it's just a beautiful reflection. I would encourage people to please to go and order and read. Go on Amazon and just key in Theology of the Body. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I just did it the other day because I was ordering a book and recognized that it's not just the one book by John Paul II, right? I mean, there's several books.
I recommend Christopher West does a good interpretation, if you will, because sometimes JB2 can be a bit lofty for us. So Christopher West kind of breaks it down for us average people, right? And reading, if you want to go lofty, go with JP2. But Christopher West does a good job at bringing it to us in a more simplistic vocabulary, if you will. So it's very clear as what JP2 is referring to. So that's if you look up Christopher West, when you Google Theology of the Body, you can find his interpretation of it, if you will.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's just so important to hear. And these are things that can affect all of our lives. I don't care how old you are, whether you're somebody who's very young or old, it can make an effect on your life right now. So I just congratulate you, Kate, because I think you're really doing incredible work. It's a real honor for me to host you here on Journeys in Faith, and also on Fiat Ministry Network, for you to come and spend your Friday evening with us. I wondered, as we're ending this show, would you have any tips or suggestions for someone who's thinking, you know, I want to be more artistic. I want to use the gifts that God has given me. There's people who think to themselves, you know what, I can't draw, I can't paint. I'm not really talented in the arts. I mean, for somebody like that, would you have any suggestions for them that they can use the gifts that God has given them?
Yeah, well, I would say, one, we all are called to be co-creators. So you are given a way to do that, no matter if you think you're an artist or not. Yeah, you may not paint like masterpieces per se, but you do in other ways. It could be simple in the sense of planting a garden. It could be baking. Like, all these are ways that we're co-creating with the Lord and encountering him. I guess what I would encourage is the intentionality behind it. When you start to do something, are you inviting the Lord in? That is when we're brought kind of to that next level, if you will. Recently, I did this 30-day beauty challenge with a bunch of folks who wanted to join in. And it was just an encouragement for 30 days to take time to be still in beauty. So that could be going to mass, adoration. It could be walking in nature, listening to a song, being still in that beauty and recognizing you're encountering the Lord in it. And then take some time to co-create, to try a new art, to, like I said, do something simple around the home that is creating something new. These are simple ways that you are partaking in beauty. Again, the intentionality behind that, I think, is key. When you say to yourself, okay, I know that beauty is encountering the Lord, so I'm going to think about that as I knit, as I build this frame, this table, whatever you're doing. Like, you know, men, you can carve something, all these different ways. Beauty is not just a feminine thing. It is something that all of our hearts are drawn to. But also don't be afraid to try an art. I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to be bad at it, and I'm not going to do it. Jesus, the Lord, he smiles at everything we create. Just think about it, your child, or, someone who has a child, when they give them a piece of art, this little girl or boy, they're not going to look at it and say, oh, that's horrible, let me throw it in the trash. They're going to put it on their fridge, hang it up with a little magnet, right? They're excited. Their child just created something so beautiful. That's how God looks at us. So yeah, just kind of reject perfectionism, if you will, and just think of creating with God. And it's okay if it's not 100% perfect, right? It's the encounter with the Lord in that's what is important.
Wow, you've encouraged me. I know you've encouraged other people. And I'll just say that the last time that you and I got together for a podcast, you were talking about that. And I got a little sketch pad.
Oh, good.
Some colored pencils, and I just started to draw
good.
Something that I haven't done in a while. So I encourage other people to take up your talents. It doesn't have to be anything that you sell or give away or, frame or anything like that, but you're certainly using your talents.
Yes, it's good for your heart. You're welcome. I'm glad you're doing that.
That's right. Thank you so much. I would like to also ask you all again to please do check out her website. Again, it's Kate Capato at visualgrace.org. Kate, before we end, did you have any final words that you'd like to say to our viewers?
I would just say, make time for beauty and challenge yourself. We have to kind of schedule that in, if you will, because we're so busy today. It's easy to put responsibilities, all these things above, and think that, when I have the time, I'll watch the sunset, I'll do that art. I think we need to make that time, because in those moments is when the Lord is transforming our character and making us who we're called to be. So in fact, it might be argued that it's more important. So schedule it in, whatever you got to do, put it in your calendar, reserve that time either in the morning, evening, whatever's better for you. And just enjoy the Lord's presence in beauty and have fun with him, create with him. It's okay to have those moments of stillness and fun with God. Sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to do that. And at any age, we need to. You have permission from the Lord to do that.
Kate, you are so amazing. I thank you so much for being a guest here on Journeys in Faith on Fiat Ministry Network. Please do come back again. And I also like to invite our viewers to go after the show is over. You can go later on patreon.com/patchworkheartministry to a show there. It's an opportunity for you to be a patron and to watch a show called 5 Minutes of Faith. Where every week we have new episodes with my guests from Journeys in Faith. So Kate will be talking to me about ways that you can appreciate beauty more in your life to grow in faith. So please do come to that show patreon.com/patchworkheartministry. Thank you, Kate, again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And everyone, I'll see you next Friday. Have a great week.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis.